Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today we're recording a special episode with Sergey Litvinenko, CEO at Koop. That's Koop with K, K-O-O-P. And I say special episode because very often we're recording weeks before it goes live. In this case, we're actually recording on Sunday, March 27th, and this will go live this week. Because there's a special announcement in it. So Sergey, thank you so much for making the time to chat with me today. And as always, we give the guests a chance to give kind of the elevator pitch. So what is Koop Technologies?
Thanks, Tony, for having me. So Koop is an insurance technology company that focuses on autonomous vehicles. We focus on anything that touches the road. So it's robotaxis, trucks, deliveries, shuttles. And we're specifically focused on the commercial segment, not on the personal lines. And we build a platform that helps us collect the data from autonomous vehicles, analyze it, and then we partner up with insurance companies and try to equip them with the necessary risk intelligence so those can build the insurance products around it. And our thesis is that as we transition from human risk to machine risk, especially in the transportation segment, autonomous vehicles, that the profile of the risk distribution is going to change. And we want to build the tools that will help the insurance industry develop that profile and build insurance products around it. So that's what Koop does. And we are on our mission, strong and fast.
Okay. How long has the company been around? So it looks from your LinkedIn that from about 2020?
Yeah, right. So we actually started right before the COVID. We kind of quit our jobs and got to building the platform in February 2020. Then March 2020, COVID happened, and we had some time to focus on building, not on marketing. And yeah, since then, a lot of things we were able to accomplish, including the fundraising in 2021 that was led by Ubiquity Ventures and B Partners out of Palo Alto.
Congrats.
Thank you.
And if I understand correctly, you've got an announcement for something new that's coming out. So what's the new piece to all of this?
Yeah. So actually, March 28th, the Monday, we're releasing an announcement about our product. It's the platform we call the Singularity Platform. It's an official announcement, meaning that we already have the commercial deployments in place, and we're looking to scale our platform over the course of the next couple of years within the industry. And the Singularity Platform is like a platform that includes in itself a couple of tools. So we talk about our Koop API, which enables us to collect data from autonomous vehicles. We talk about Portal by Koop, which is a web tool that provides different surfaces to different stakeholders. And also we talk about the methodology, which we call the insurability sufficiency framework. Lets us understand the insurability of autonomous systems and how we can tap into the alternative data sets to understand the risk distribution of those systems without having a lot of claims unnecessarily today. And all of that together is the Singularity Platform. And we also are going to be announcing our first partnerships and our first clients in the month to come. So please stay tuned for that.
Awesome. And so the first partners, I know you can't release them yet, but are we talking carriers that have committed to bringing you on?
Yes, when we're talking about our insurance partners, we're talking about the brand insurance names who have appetite in the space or who are looking to enter this space. And we work with some of the names that are just incredible, and we think can get a lot of great things done with them. And also on the autonomous vehicle company side, we'll be also announcing some of the names in the month to come that we're excited to provide our services to them and integrate them onto our platform.
Okay, so the autonomous vehicle or the self-driving vehicle space is very interesting. We've been talking about this for a few years, right? And if I understand correctly, and I am not an expert in this, I'm just kind of a nerd. Okay, so if I understand correctly, if you look back 20 years ago, like when I went to college in 2002, I started in computer science. I did not graduate in computer science. I graduated with business. But when I started in computer science, I remember that driving was one of the things that was considered at the time to not be automatable, right? So basically, we were looking at, hey, a bunch of automation is probably coming with artificial intelligence, but a few things are just not automatable, right? And driving was one of those examples. And then in the last, I don't know, 10 years, there was just massive improvement in self-driving, right? We went from the best of self-driving that I remember, 10 years ago, what were kind of the off-road competitions that engineering universities
DARPA.
exactly the DARPA funded. And then all of a sudden we have like on the road in California, Nevada, actual cars getting tested, and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, this is coming.
Yes.
And then Tesla has its autopilot or whatever they call it, right? Which is not full on, but the car can come to you. And Insurance Nerds runs a few articles, one written by an actuary and stuff. And then the big accident happens in I think it was in Arizona, where a self-driving car, I think one of Uber's maybe, hits a pedestrian because of the lighting, and all of a sudden everybody's like, "Oh, this is it! Like this is going away. It's just never going to be legal." So anyway, I just threw a lot of what I know about autonomous vehicles. So kind of fill in the blanks. Like what's happened since then? And where do you think this is going? Are we finally getting them in the next 5 years, or?
Totally. So by the way, very nice overview, actually.
Thank you.
So you're right. Started with the DARPA challenge. There were teams from, I think, from Carnegie Mellon University here in Pittsburgh. That's where we based, from a couple of other universities, and it basically had a chance to develop this self-driving application for military. And a lot of people who worked on that challenge originally became kind of the founding entrepreneurs of the self-driving industry in the US today as we know it. And since then, there were attempts to put those similar self-driving applications on the roads, and they were successful. And at some point, the market said that this was a big enough problem to give it major funding. And that's happened from 2015 to 2017. And then there were certain milestones set. Those milestones were kind of revised, and now we're at the stage where we actually see the real deployments where there is no driver behind the wheel in many different cities and across different routes. So
hold on. Okay, so that's very interesting. So the last that I had seen, Google and Uber and companies like that, or offshoots from those companies, I can't keep track of the names, had permission from a couple of states, California, Arizona, Nevada, kind of thing, to test those vehicles on the road with a driver in the driver's seat, but not right. The driver's not touching the wheel, kind of thing, right? And
supervising,
exactly, and really, like, the reality of the matter, like, that driver's there for legal reasons. If something happens quickly, the machine's faster than the driver, right? So are we now at the point where that driver's no longer required there?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome.
So
okay.
and there are actually services that you can experience yourself. So for example, there is a service by one autonomous vehicle company in Phoenix, Arizona. You can go there, you can hop into the full self-driving vehicle. I've actually done this myself. And it pulls up with nobody behind the wheel, and it takes you to whatever you need to go. And it's absolutely fantastic, like how it works. It's just magic. Now there is another company in San Francisco that actually opened their self-driving service to the public. And now you can do the same in San Francisco, which some say is, magnitude harder to drive in than, let's say, Phoenix, Arizona. So that's another accomplishment. There is a delivery company that I think is operating in different cities at this point. They have developed their own vehicle, like it's like a like a mid-sized vehicle, and they even have no room for the driver. So it's been built up from the ground up to be fully autonomous. Then there is another company that's operating in the south, like in Texas and the southern states, and they actually already haul goods with nobody behind the wheel in a Class 8 massive truck. And what we're seeing right now is that there are real applications of the autonomous technology in different areas. And we think that over the next 5 years, the companies will go from R&D to the actual operations and scaling that to many different cities around the country. And at some point, you'll be able to see those services like in many different cities in, let's say, on the eastern, western, southern parts of the United States. It's not going to be instantaneous and overnight, like overnight is going to be level 5 self-driving, and you're going to see autonomous vehicles all over the place. Now, it's a very hard problem. It's a very hard technology, and it's going to take incremental steps to scale it. But those steps will be very, very groundbreaking. And I think that by the end of the decade, we're going to be in a place where self-driving is no longer going to be a myth. There's going to be a pure business problem about how to scale this up from tens of thousands of vehicles to millions of vehicles all over the world.
Okay, so thank you for updating me on what's happened in the last couple of years, where I really wasn't paying attention to self-driving. One thing, kind of the biggest thing that I got from one of the articles that Insurance Nerds ran, written by an actuary maybe 3 or 4 years ago, which I think is important for the listeners to understand, is that the beauty of self-driving cars is that when I have an accident, right, as a human driving, I learn some lessons, but that's it.
Yeah.
My sister doesn't learn them. My wife doesn't learn. Well, my girlfriend doesn't learn. Nobody else learns them, right? When a self-driving car has an accident, the lessons from that accident are learned by the entire fleet. So,
exactly.
So over time, it becomes exponentially safer, right? And they don't get tired, right? They don't drink. They don't have other stresses. So anyway, yes, like they're bound to end up being a lot safer drivers than we are. So if I've said this a few times, and you're making me feel better about that I'm probably right. What I don't have kids, but what I told friends in conversations about autonomous driving is, if you had a kid in the last couple of years here in the US, and you live in a suburban or urban area, my guess is that your kid will never learn how to drive, right? Because 16 years from now, things will have advanced to a point where it just doesn't make sense for them to learn how to drive. And then I used to work with American Modern. American Modern is one of the big insurers for classic vehicles. Classic vehicle insurance works differently than normal car insurance, where basically it goes on the assumption that you don't do a lot of driving, that it's really kind of a show it off on Sundays, go to car shows kind of thing, not a daily drive, a lot less risk. My assumption is that X number of years, let's say 25 years, 30 years from now, really driving will have become in the developed world, a hobby. Not right. The people who choose to drive a manually driven car are doing it because they like to, and they're paying specialty insurance that's more expensive because they're more risky than that, right? So anyway, that's my guess. Do tell me if I'm wrong. From the insurance perspective, so we kind of talk about the tech perspective. So from the insurance perspective, so number one, if you are number one, I think that will happen is not so much the Tesla self-driven type thing, even though every automaker is working on them. I think what's going to happen is more, especially in urban environments, more commercially owned fleets that
Yes.
operate more like Uber and more like FedEx, right? Where I don't own a car, I just call it when I need it, and it just happens to not have a driver, right? So that's not a personal lines risk anymore. That's a commercial lines fleet risk, right? So I think if you're a carrier that's very, very heavy on personal lines auto, I think that business will largely go away. Maybe it'll continue existing in rural areas where fleets don't make sense, right? But I think that it's moving towards a commercial lines risk. So I think we're on the same page on that. So basically, what I'd love for you to explain to the listeners, and at this point, I'll assume that the listeners that are still listening, or the ones that this really applies to, are the ones in commercially focused insurance carriers, or in personal lines focused insurance carriers that want to move to commercial because of autonomous. So their expertise is pricing risk, handling claims, underwriting risk, right? So how can Koop Technology help them, who are certainly worried about the move to autonomous?
So I agree with you on the commercial, it's the fleet model, the driver as a service model. That's what we focus on, but it also doesn't mean that the other models would not be possible. So for example, like Tesla, so it could very well be that there's going to be a Tesla FSD at a point where people can rely on it, and there's going to be different robotaxi fleets that you can just use the Uber and hail different stack providers on your Uber. So it's going to be such a huge industry that there's going to be room for a lot of players, and a lot of them can be successful if they what they do. So how can Koop help the insurance industry? So first of all, let's start with data collection. So we believe that the insurance industry has done a great job at collecting the data and putting together the distribution for the human-centric risk. But when it comes to autonomy, you take the human out of the driver's seat, and this whole thing changes. And all of a sudden, those historical models, hundreds of years of data that used to be an advantage for insurance companies are no longer so. So now you need to be able to tap into the alternative data sets that the autonomous vehicles collect in order to be able to understand what's the distribution of a machine-centric risk. And that's exactly what we do. So at Koop, we figured out the way how we can collect data from autonomous vehicles. It's a very autonomous vehicle developer-friendly way, very secure, very efficient. And we collect the categories of data that we believe have the most value in understanding the insurability of a system. And we do this repeatedly across different systems, and there is a certain way how we standardize that. So it makes it very easy for an insurance carrier to work with that data and to maybe compare the data against what they have, or also build some bespoke solutions and models around it. So that's number one. Number two, we also help with underwriting those systems. Instead of just being a data broker, we actually the vertically integrated full stack solution where we do analysis ourselves. And working with us, insurance companies can be sure that we'll generate some of the best analysis that we can do on the data that we collect, and they can rely on that analysis if they want to. And finally, when it comes to claims handling, we also utilize our infrastructure to collect data that's helpful to understand, explain claims at scale. So you might imagine that if you're a fleet running an autonomous vehicle, let's say a couple hundred autonomous vehicles, you can imagine that every time you get into an accident, there might be some argument between the fleet between the fleet owner, operator, and also between the developer who was responsible. And it has to be some ability in order to pull the data and figure out who was actually liable. And we also developed a way how we can utilize our API infrastructure to facilitate that process. So the insurance companies do not end up in heavy subrogation costs and do not end up in a situation where autonomy suffers just because the infrastructure around autonomous vehicle insurance is inefficient. So to repeat that, we help with data collection, underwriting, and claims handling, and we do this in a very efficient, secure way that any insurance companies can plug into. So far, we've already proven that it can be done. We already have carrier partners that we'll announce in the near future.
Fantastic. So for the listener who is kind of on that side, on the product / underwriting side of a commercial carrier, how does it look like to look at engaging with you guys? Is there a demo of the platform? Is there how big of a commitment is it to bring you on board? Can we do just an MVP, or like kind of what is the integration of engaging Koop looks like?
Well, one way to get engaged is to come join Koop and work for us. We are hiring right now, and across different positions, so definitely check out the website. So secondly, it actually does not require any kind of the heavy onboarding process. So if there is a carrier who already has autonomous vehicle clients that they insure, or is looking to enter this space, working with Koop is just like pretty much a plug-in approach. So we'll just pretty much sign the document that allows them to enter the platform. It's like a web tool. You log in, you create the credentials, you get into the portal, and you already see all the accounts that you have there. You can click on each account, and within that account, you can get that massive amount of intel that we produce for underwriters. And they can use it off the shelf, or maybe they can explore some custom integrations that we can do with them. But it does not require any of the financial or resources committed that would break the bank for them. And that's one of the reasons why I think everybody should be working with Koop, because how easy and how efficient we make it for carriers to work with autonomous vehicles.
That's fantastic. And towards the end of the conversation, I often like to dig a little bit into where the idea came from and kind of your own career. Yeah. So you're just looking at your LinkedIn, a little bit we chatted before recording. You've got a really interesting background where
thanks.
You have the degree in finance from University of Pittsburgh, and then a master's in finance, right? So it's very much a quant. That makes sense for an founder. What I find interesting is, number one, that you hold your CFA, which is on the investment side, and having been a speaker at the World Economic Forum. So I'm really curious on that involvement with the World Economic Forum and how you got the idea for Koop.
Yeah. So the very early on, this idea came around 2017, and my existing co-founders, whom I've known for many years, we wanted to build a machine learning algorithm that will help us improve the safety of the traffic in the United States. And we looked at this as an incentive problem, and we built a way how we can deploy certain dash cameras and how we can collect the data from those dash cameras and generate all different types of intelligence that can help us understand the kind of the traffic infractions on different parts of the road, and how we can incentivize drivers to behave more properly to avoid all those kinds of situations. So I'm not going to go into that, but we had that idea. We even built a prototype part-time. But then at some point, we started looking more into the autonomy, and one of our co-founders, he comes from an autonomous vehicle background, and we thought if there were any ways how we could apply that idea towards the autonomous vehicle space. And as we started digging into this, talking both to autonomous vehicle companies and insurance companies and some of the government agencies, we figured that one of the first applications of data, which is something that we focused on, was in the insurance space, and that there was no company that actually did this in a product-like fashion. There were different companies that would consult you on different things, but there was no company that you could rely on from the product perspective in terms of, okay, so here is a bunch of products, here is a bunch of tools, and you can do this with 10 vehicles or with 100,000 vehicles. And we thought it was a niche that we could fill in, and we started to kind of take our original technology that we built and pivoted it towards the autonomous vehicle insurance. And from that moment on, we got enough conviction that this could be a standalone company. It could be very big if we're successful with achieving the milestones that we set for ourselves. And we started officially in February 2020. And from that moment on, we started to, gain traction and got to the point that we are, announcing the Singularity Platform, already got clients and carrier partners and hiring actively. So I think philosophically, we do believe that autonomous vehicles is going to be that once in generation shift in how not only our transportation works, but also how we behave as humans. And we think that insurance is going to be a meaningful component of that. And our mission is to figure out that insurance component for the industry. So it's both not preventing autonomous vehicle companies from putting vehicles on the road, but also at the same time, it's viewed as a part of the value-added service, not only as an obstacle on the way to autonomy. And that's what we do at Koop.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. It's been awesome to catch up on this topic that should have a humongous effect once it really hits an exponential curve. Thank you so much. Love to have you back on the show at some point. Once things are live and have been live for a little bit to hear how things have gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you for having me on this special episode.